The plane screamed down to the sea almost vertically. The two pilots, strapped in their seats, gripped the controls tightly, pulling back with all their strength, trying to recover from the runaway situation. As life hung by a thread, a bold idea flashed through the captain's mind. Since the plane couldn't be forced up, why not continue the dive, perhaps breaking this fatal descent? Moments later, this desperate gamble actually worked. The deadly 70-degree dive was eventually reduced to 10 degrees. To seize a chance at survival, the captain roared at the co-pilot, telling him to stomp on the rudder to flip the plane over. But their struggles seemed pale and powerless against the extreme flight attitude. As seconds ticked by, the engine, unable to cope with the extreme angle's turbulent air, completely shut down. The sea above was now within reach. At precisely 4 p.m., the MD-83, with 88 passengers and crew, violently slammed into the ocean. This tragic scene was witnessed by other flights nearby, becoming an indelible shadow in the hearts of those observers. Was this accident caused by mechanical failure, human error, or a design flaw? When the critical component from the plane's steel fin was salvaged from the seabed, the truth behind the accident slowly surfaced. This nightmare began 2 hours earlier. They had at least 3 chances to save lives, but all were missed. When the plane climbed to 23,400 feet, the onboard alarm suddenly sounded, indicating the autopilot system couldn't continue due to a horizontal stabilizer trim malfunction. The moment the captain took manual control, he felt a fatal anomaly through the stick. The plane was severely unbalanced. The horizontal stabilizer trim was inexplicably stuck at 0.4 degrees nose down. To maintain climb, he had to continuously push the stick with 40 N of force, countering the tail's downward trim. The plane had just taken off. The captain, not seeing it as a major issue, decided to manually fly the rest of the journey. The two immediately referred to the quick checklist, attempting to fix the malfunction. They pressed the trim button on the control stick, pulled the trim handle beside them, but the horizontal stabilizer remained motionless. Switching to the backup motor trim system, still had no response. Checked the circuit breakers, all indicator lights show normal. All standard procedures were exhausted, but the malfunction showed no signs of easing. If we had decisively turned back then, we could have safely landed before the fault worsened and gotten away unscathed. But the crew had no idea that behind this seemingly minor glitch, a potentially fatal danger was lurking. They completely ignored the danger within the tail, deciding to fly manually the entire way, continuing to their destination, San Francisco. As the plane climbed to its cruising altitude of 31,000 feet and leveled off, the force required to pull the control column gradually decreased, and the situation seemed to improve. And so, this plane, needing manual stick control throughout, flew for 2 hours with unresolved issues, nearing its destination. To ensure a safer landing, the captain aimed to fix the malfunction before touchdown, requesting an emergency diversion to the nearest LAX air traffic control. However, ATC rejected this urgent plea, citing potential delays and impact on airport operations, demanding they continue to San Francisco. But for the safety of nearly 100 lives on board, the captain decisively insisted on diverting to Los Angeles. He would never put all passengers' lives at risk for money. To fix the issue before landing, the captain again tried the trim button and pulled the trim lever. But unexpectedly, these actions drastically worsened the plane's state. The fuselage violently plunged down again. This extreme situation was far beyond the pilot's normal experience, leaving them utterly confused. Then, the piercing overspeed alarm sounded, signaling the fatal risk of the plane disintegrating mid-flight. Left with no choice, the captain risked deploying the speed brakes while traveling at extreme velocity. Luckily, their full effort managed to pull the aircraft out of its dangerous downward trajectory. On the vast ocean, isolated, helpless, and in despair, they could only pin their hopes on the LAX maintenance crew, hoping for effective solutions, but the final reply they received was to just try their previous operation again. This irresponsible advice directly pushed everyone on board to their deaths. They really shouldn't have worried scared, with an unclear malfunction that any extra action could worsen their risk. But just then, a loud bang came from the plane's tail and disaster ultimately struck. Subsequent investigation revealed that the direct cause was that about 90% of the threads on the T-nut of the horizontal stabilizer trim screw had failed due to lack of lubrication and wear, becoming jammed. The crew repeatedly attempted to adjust the trim, which instead accelerated the nut's complete detachment, causing the horizontal tail trim system to completely lose control. The deeper reasons are even more shocking. Alaska Airlines unilaterally extended the screw's lubrication interval from the recommended 300 to 350 flight hours to a staggering 9,300 hours. They also unilaterally changed the lubricant type. This unauthorized change was even approved by the FAA. Plus, maintenance staff used non-standard inspection tools, causing thread wear to remain undetected and continuously worsen. Additionally, the MD-83 lacked fail-safe mechanisms, unable to prevent catastrophic failure once the knock threat gave way. A single point of failure directly led to total loss of control. The two pilots fought until their last breath, but couldn't defeat a system already compromised.